हिरण्याकाशिपूर्वक्षः हिरण्याकाशिपूर्वक्षः शीलटङ्का नखालाये शीलटङ्का नखालाये इतो नरसिंह परतो नरसिंह यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंह बहिर्नरसिंह हृदये नरसिंह नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये तव करकमलवरे नाकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गां धालिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गाम् केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे नरसिंहदेव दूतशृङ्गां दालिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गाम् जय जगदीश जय जगदीश जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जगदीश जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जयो लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जयो लक्ष्मी नरसिंह भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रभुपदा नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रभुपदा गुरुदेव 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 जयो जयो गुरुदेव हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा भक्ति विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय। भक्तराज प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। हरि हरि बोल। Continuing to read from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Like yesterday we read in chapter 15. Certain key points we'll continue to read now. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. So continuing to read from the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is called Purushottam Yoga. We just finished Purushottam month recently. So we are in text 5. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha Adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaham Dvandver vimuktaha sukha dukkha samyer gachanti yamudaha padamavyayam tat gachanti yamudaha padamavyayam tat. So, those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the duality of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. Right? So, we are talking about eternal kingdom where Lord Krishna lives. The topmost is Goloka Vrindavan. So, in order to go to the higher planetary systems or cross the higher planets and go to the spiritual world, here is the secret given: free from false prestige, illusion, and false association. So, purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride, because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself to be the Lord of material nature. It is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by cultivation of real knowledge that he is not the Lord of material nature. So we should realize that we are not the Lords of material nature. The Supreme Personality is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion, for although one comes here, stays for a brief time and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated and is always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering the land, this earth, to belong to human society, and they have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such false notion, he becomes free from false associations caused by familial, social, and national affections. These faulty associations bind one to the material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what actually is not his own. And when one has the understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes full in knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvander vimuktaha sukha dukkha samyer gachanti yamudaha padamavyayam tat. So, this is very good. We are in chapter 15, verse 5. We covered a few verses yesterday. So here, the process of surrender is described by Srila Prabhupada. He says, when one is free from delusion caused by pride, we are all proud, right? We are proud of our job, we are proud of our car, our house. Then we can begin the process of surrender. Means we should be free from this pride. Pride is the stumbling block. For one who is always expecting some honor in the material world, it is not possible to surrender. We all want honor, right? We all want titles like senior engineer, senior manager, senior director. Who nobody wants to be junior. Everybody wants to be senior, right? You see the LinkedIn profiles. Everybody wants to be the boss. Nobody wants to be the das. Das means servant, right? So we have come into ISKCON to cure this disease, so that we can discuss these topics and cure this disease of trying to be the boss. If you want to be the boss, you will never start surrendering. And Srila Prabhupada says he thus makes all things complicated and is always in trouble. This is what you are seeing in the modern world. Everything is complicated, isn't it? Nothing is straightforward. Even to do a small thing, it takes so much effort. And then he says, These are the false associations caused by familial, social, and national affections. Like, God bless America, Bharat Mahan. So we think of the country, but we are forgetting our own self, the soul. Familial, social. We are saying, okay, now let's have this society and let's all, make some decisions about future of Sammamish. Or family. Oh, only I will take care of my family. Everybody else go to hell. Right? So these are family, social, and national pride. So pride takes many forms. You may say, see, look, I am not very proud. I only want to, take care of the future of America. But that's also one form of pride. It will prevent us from surrendering to Krishna. Okay, now let's do 6th verse. Na tad bhashyate suryo na shashanko na pavakah yad gatva na nivartante tadhamam paramam mama. So Krishna is giving some secret about how his spiritual world is, right, in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is like a manual for the world. How to live in this world is Bhagavad Gita. Just like when you buy a TV set, there is a manual. When you buy a washing machine, there is a manual. But what is the manual for life in this world? It is not reading Bill Gates' book or Steve Jobs' book. That is not the manual for the world. That is their promotion of their company. That's got nothing to do with how we should live. Right? So Bhagavad Gita gives us the information. So Krishna says, that supreme abode of mine, abode means home, is not illumined by sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. You don't need, in spiritual world, these LED lamps. You don't need electric switches. Right? It is powered by something else. Those who reach it never return to this material world. We are continuously taking birth, life after life in this material world. And once we go to the spiritual world, we will never come back again here. So our goal should be to leave this material world and go to the spiritual world. So Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, the spiritual world, the abode of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, which is known as Krishna Lok, Golok, Vrindavan is described here. In the spiritual sky, there is no need of sunshine or moonshine, fire or electricity, because all the planets are self-luminous. See, sometimes you'll buy these things, toys, and in the night they glow on their own. They are self-luminous. In the same way, in the spiritual world, you don't need electricity. It is self-luminous. There is natural quality. The shining effulgence of all those planets called Vaikunthas constitute the shining sky known as Brahma Jyoti. So the Vaikunthas are all positioned in the Brahma Jyoti, the Lord's energy. The Lord's energy is so bright, you cannot even see him directly. Right? One way to understand God is, look at the sun. How long can you look? That's how bright he is. Krishna Koti Surya Saman. So that is one sun. He's like 1 crore suns. So can you see? Actually, you cannot see sun for more than 2 or 3 seconds, right? Immediately you turn away your eyes. So that's how bright the body of Krishna is. And all these planets are illumined or illuminated by his bodily effulgence, his bodily radiation, basically. Actually, the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna, Goloka Vrindavan. Part of that shining effulgence is covered by Mahat Tattva of the material world. Other than this, the major portion of that shining sky is full of spiritual planets which are called Vaikunthas, chief of which is Golok Vrindavan. As long as the living entity is in this dark material world, he is in conditioned life. But as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky by cutting through false perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated. Right? So we have to come out of this material world. That is called liberation. And Krishna also says, or Prabhupada says, it's perverted tree. So in the spiritual world, root is in the bottom, the branches are going up. Material world is opposite. Urdhva moolam, adha shakam. Shakam means branches. Branches are down, root is up. So there are 2 trees. One is the spiritual tree and one is the material tree. And we are in this material world, which is the upside down tree. One should be captivated by this information. So if we are not inspired by this information, something is wrong with us. Because here this information is given about the spiritual world. We are worried more about what is the stock price of Microsoft, or is the economy collapsing. That is okay. I mean, you are living here, so you shouldn't know. But you should know this information is more important, the description of the spiritual world. He, means we all of us, should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate means pull out, extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. So this entire material world is considered a reflection. Like when you see in Lake Sammamish, there are trees, real trees on the top, reflection is in the water. But if you go and touch that water, is it there? Is the tree there? No. This material world is like that. It's illusory. I mean, it appears very real. But whatever activities we do here are of no significance. I mean, there are some activities, that's it. But they are not going to help you in any way. Except, of course, if you surrender to the Lord and do seva, then your activities make some sense. Otherwise, they are shrama eva hi kevalam, means just shrama, waste of effort. You're just doing haath pair maar rahe hain, koi kaam nahi ho raha hai. That's what it is. For one is too much attached to this material world, it is very difficult to cut that attachment. But if he takes to Krishna consciousness, there is a chance of gradually becoming detached. One has to associate himself with devotees, those who are in Krishna consciousness. That's what we are doing. We are associating with devotees in this hall, so that, because if you associate with drunkards, you will become what? Drunkard. If you associate with psychologists, what will you be? You'll become like one of them. If you associate with engineers, you'll become like one of them. If you associate with bhaktas, you'll become like one of them. So I congratulate you that you are here associating with devotees. Primary is Srila Prabhupada's book. One should search out a society dedicated to Krishna consciousness and learn how to discharge devotional service. So Prabhupada says we should search out such a society. Now we don't have to search out. It's already there in Sammamish, right in this building. Now you just have to participate. There's no question of searching. Right? You already searched, you're already here. Now you have to participate in this society of bhaktas. In this way, he can cut off his attachment to the material world. Very difficult to cut off attachment. Attached to wife, attached to husband, attached to parents, attached to kids. It's 360-degree attachment. The only way you can cut off this attachment is through bhakti. Right? When you do bhakti, other things follow. One cannot become detached from the attraction of material world by dressing himself in saffron cloth. You can go to Walmart, buy saffron cloth for like $15, and you can wrap and you say, I'm detached. Is it true? No. Detachment is internal, not external. Somebody may be wearing suit and tie, and he may be a very detached person. Somebody may be wearing a saffron, and he may be a very attached person. External dress doesn't mean anything. He must become attached to the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, one should take it very seriously that devotional service as described in 12th chapter is the only way to get out of this false representation. So this material world is a false representation. It's not like it is not real. You can touch this, it is there. But it's a false representation of reality. The reality is in the spiritual world. This is a reflection. Therefore, in chapter 14, the contamination of all kinds of processes by material nature is described. So what are the three contaminations of the soul? Mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. Only devotional service is purely transcendental. The words Paramam Mama are very important here. Actually, every nook and corner is the property of the Supreme Lord. Every nook and corner of this world is property of God. Right? Did you create this? Did you create Sammamish? Did you create Seattle? No, it is already there. It's property of the Supreme Lord. But the spiritual world is Paramam, full of 6 opulences. The Katha Upanishad also confirms that in the spiritual world there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, or stars. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam. For the whole spiritual sky is illuminated by the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. So the Supreme Lord has internal potency, so that illuminates. You don't need electricity there. That supreme abode can be achieved only by surrender and by no other means. Right? So then you say, oh, I cannot see Krishna, how do I surrender? You surrender to Krishna's representative, like Srila Prabhupada or his disciples. So that is the process of surrender. Okay, we'll do one more and then we'll stop. Mamevamshe jivaloke jiva bhutah sanatanah manah shastra indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. The living entities in the conditioned world, which is our world, are my eternal fragmental parts. So Krishna is saying that each one of you is a part of me, a small part. We are Anu, he is Vibhu. Anu means small, Vibhu means big. Right? So the Anu cannot become Vibhu, so we can never become God. We are part of him, but small, very small. We have his same qualities as God. So what is the part? Like for example, you have a machine with 1,000 parts. And one of the part, there is a bearing or a little camshaft in the car. So the camshaft has no value on its own. But when you put it in the automobile, like a Honda Accord, now it does something and the car moves forward. So job of the part is to cooperate with the whole. Individually, that piece of camshaft is only like 25 cents. But when it goes into the machine, its value increases tremendously. So if we cooperate with God's position, then our value also goes up. We are artificially trying to be very popular or very proud, but that's not going to help. So we have to align ourselves with Krishna's vision. Krishna has a vision for the world, right? That all his children should come back to him. And we don't want to go back to him. We are too happy. It's like going to Disney World and they're saying, "Arey, Disney World itna acha hai, yahin pe ghar bana lete hain." But does it make sense? You go there for a couple of days and you come back. So that is what we are doing. We belong in the spiritual world. We came to material world and we want to make it a permanent home. So we are trying to create a permanent home in a temporary place. This place is temporary, we all know. Right? 200 years ago, American Indians were ruling. Now, Americans are ruling. 200 years later, who knows who will be ruling this place. Right? Everything is constantly changing. Nothing is permanent. So in this verse, the identity of the living being is clearly given. The living entity is a fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord eternally, not now. Even after millions of years, we will always be separate from Krishna, but we are a part. It's a separated part with a thin, invisible line connecting us with Krishna. It is not that he assumes individuality in his conditioned life and his liberated states, he becomes one with Supreme Lord. Some people say, oh, after we get mukti, we'll become God. No, that's not happening. Even after liberation, we will have our eternal individuality. We are always separate from the Lord. We are a part of him, but separate. It is clearly said, Sanatana. Sanatana means eternal. According to the Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself in innumerable expansions, of which the primary expansions are called Vishnu Tattva and the secondary expansions are called Jiva Tattva. So we are all Jiva Tattva, they are all Vishnu Tattva, right? So God has also expansions. We also have, separate living position, life after life, sometimes in one body, sometimes in a different body. But we are always Jiva Tattva, he is always Vishnu Tattva. By its personal expansion is manifested in various forms like Rama, Narsimha, Vishnu Murti and predominating deities in the Vaikuntha planet. So each one of these deity has a separate planet. Right? They live in their own abode. And if we are very attracted to them, then we go to that particular planet. Right? So it's not like all of us have the same destination. Even if we are liberated, we'll go to different planets of different Vishnu Tattva position. Similarly, the separated expansions have their identities. As fragmental parts and parcels of Supreme Lord, the living entities also have fragmental portion of his qualities. So if you want to know God, you should know who you are. You have emotions, right? So with those emotions, you can understand God's emotions because you are a part of him. Small Anu, Anu means microscopic. His Vibhu means all pervading or all expanding. So if you want to understand God, first you have to do self-realization. Who am I? Right? What is my purpose in this world? People say directly they want to understand God without understanding who they are. So that is like jumping 2 steps ahead. It doesn't make any sense. Every living entity has an individual soul, has its personal individuality, and a minute form of independence. We all have independence, right? You took your independence to get into the car and drive to the Hare Krishna temple, right? It's not like anybody put a gun on you and said, go to the temple. No. You used your independence, but it is minute. You can come from your home to the temple. In the next 3 seconds, you cannot be in New York City. So you don't have that kind of independence. You have limited independence. By misuse of that independence, we become a conditioned soul. So we misuse that sometimes. No, God has given us certain activities and we say, no, I don't like that, I'll do this. So which is essentially misusing your limited independence. First of all, you don't have unlimited independence. And whatever limited you have, you are misusing it for material activities. Right? He doesn't ask for a lot. He says, Man mana bhava mad bhakto, always think of me. Right? Read my scriptures, associate with my devotees, eat my prasadam, don't eat all garbage food in outside. Anything that's not offered to the Lord, you should not eat. Right? So you offer, it becomes prasadam. Bhoga becomes prasadam. Then when you eat that, your soul is purified. Anything in connection with Krishna is spiritual. Anything not connected is material. That's all it is. Very easy definition. Right? So whatever you're doing, you're fasting someday for Krishna. Then that is spiritual automatically. But if you fast to reduce body weight, then that is material. So what do? Whatever you do in alignment with Krishna. You'll get the benefit anyways. Anyhow, you'll lose weight by fasting. But do it for him. You see the difference? Do it for yourself, material. Do it for Krishna, spiritual. You can take your car to the bar, that is material. You can take your car to the temple, that is spiritual. I mean, that is at a certain basic level, but there are more details. Fasting on certain days and things like that. Okay, any question before we conclude? So you are a young engineer, so you should ask a question. No? Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.